conversation that revolves around, yes, the politics of the day, and importantly, the questions of education, the questions of health, the questions of celebrating our very own who are doing us magic, and so much more. The president finds his way to the United States, and of course, in this very visit, there are a couple of things that he seeks to discuss. So the bilateral talks that will make sure that, African nations and Kenya in particular then have good relations with the United States, relations that have since existed. But of course, it's always the prerogative of the next leadership to make sure that, there are some changes that they would bring to the fore. So we get to see what the president then will be bringing to the people of Kenya from the United States, even as the GMO deal conversation is what is supposed to take center stage, or will also be top of Kenya's US talks. This is a story that has been captured on page 26 of the Standard newspaper. And yes, we get into this very conversation. And remember, today also we'll be talking matters finances, so don't you go anywhere. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV 47KE. My name is Linda Alela, and this is Morning Cafe, and the broadcast begins right away. We'll be sampling some of your comments as and when they get to hit our pages. But for now, allow us to look at the papers, the Standard newspaper, the Daily Nation, and the People Daily. The front page of the Standard newspaper. What do we have on the front page of the Standard newspaper? Raila criticizes new attempt to change the constitution. That's the story captured on page 9. This conversation steered or brought to the fore by the president. Well, we've been having this for the longest of time in terms of, people speaking and suggesting of what we need to do. But now the president has seen it necessary to literally marshal his troops at the level of parliament for this very important conversation, and largely occasioned by the talk of making sure that we set aboard an opposition office, something that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga would have been expected to be happy about, but he criticizes it, says that it's been, what it is that they spoke of with the Building Bridges initiative, but then the president was at the forefront then to counter that. And so he says, well, it is hypocritical for the president to pretend that he's really interested in these conversations, and even worse, just looking at what really got the BBI quashed at the level of the courts, as to whether then President Uhuru Kenyatta then had the prerogative to have, talked of a popular initiative or to have steered the conversation of a referendum, perhaps to tell him that, Mr. President, you are getting this wrong, because from the onset, this is likely to be challenged at the level of the court. And so, will President William Ruto proceed to ask for his members of parliament to have a conversation as to whether we need to incorporate a constitutional office for the opposition leader, and for that matter, an office that is funded and is recognized with the constitution? We can only wait and see. On the other side, GMO deals to top Kenya-US talks. I think we've already touched on that. A story captured on page 26, and we'll be looking at it as we continue with the broadcast. Hurdles in ways of peace in DRC. A story captured on page 28, in as much as former president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, has been on the forefront alongside other African leaders, East African leaders for that matter, towards the push for peace, striking a deal with rebel officers, and, historically being celebrated for that very move. It looks like it's not easy, and the end is not nigh. We still are hoping to deal with the question of M23, and also just to get this aspect of animosity quelled at the point of DRC, but this is not happening as should have been expected. Just what will it take for this to be addressed? Equally, we'll be looking at it and knowing very well that there's always the hand of external figures that have interests, first of all, of the question of the resources, and so it becomes hard for them to allow for peace to prevail. They say constantly divide and rule is the name of the game. Away from it, CNN hero Cheboy fitted for taking technology to villages. This happened yesterday, and also she is celebrated amongst the numerous Kenyans that have really embraced technology for purposes of helping their society. Cheboy has touched the lives of many children in Mogochio by enabling them access computers and the internet, and of course this she will receive close to around 80 million as awards and grants. A story captured on page 10. Congratulations to her. She has indeed made us proud. And of course, the dark secrets of the British Empire that maimed, killed, and overtaxed Kenyans, captured on page 12 and 13 during the colonial times. And the biggest fear today is even on the question of whether then we have this colonization cropping back in the form of neo-colonization and what needs to be done. And of course, lots of questions continue to be asked as to really what the reign of the British empires actually did to the country Kenya and to numerous other African countries, and what needs to be done so that this can be reversed, so that these African countries then would get to enjoy total freedom. Hits and misses of Ruto's 90 days. President used Jamhuri Day podium to give a scorecard of his administration, promising to do more, but a number of his campaign pledges are yet to be met 10 days to their deadline. A story captured on page 2 and 8. These are the talks that we're talking about in my government, 100 days. This is what I'll be doing. But then again, the question is just how easy is it for them to manage to do this once they get to hit government amidst the tough times, the tough economic times, the numerous complaints that they have inherited, a government that is broke. Well, they speak of the build, a 100,000 kilometer digital superhighway, what it is that they have managed to receive, or what it is that they have managed to do, what they have not managed to do. This is a story captured on the front page and expounded on this very paper, page 2 to 8. It's all about the Jamhuri Day celebrations. So we're looking at some of these things that have been captured here to see to it whether the citizenry is in a way satisfied by what it is that the current Kenya Kwanza government is doing so far, even as we follow up on some of the adjustments that they might need to do. That is the day Standard newspaper. A brief look at what the Daily Nation has, and then we'll also be picking the People Daily shortly. And Kenyan fitted for schools tech project. Nelly Cheboi quit top job to set up computer labs for children. That's a story captured on page 8. Congratulations to her. We continue to celebrate this great progress. Those who denied or dined in our home have betrayed us. A story captured on page 10. Mama Ida Odinga speaking to the political scenarios that she's seen over years, living with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, her expectations, the people who've worked with them, and how they have managed to perhaps just get them into a space of, feeling like they have been betrayed. Away from it, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, backstory of Azimio's election or loss, and of course, things are not rosy in Mr. Odinga's coalition, where allies are locked in a blame game over the outcome of the August election. A story captured on page 10. While they might have argued that the election process was flawed, reality is that many said they had not prepared themselves in comparison to what their competitors had done. And also KCPE results out next week. This is according to the CS for Matters Education, Machogu, and of course Education CS says his ministry has put in place stringent measures to guard against cheating in examinations. A story captured on the back page of the Daily Nation. And so next week we'll get to know how our children performed. That is as to the KCPE results and what next for them as they prepare to transit to a different stage of education. Opposition leaders told of Ruto's plan to lower food prices. And of course, the high cost of living, which has a top agenda in the item of 2022 general election headline. President William Ruto's first Jamhuri Day address, as he outlined a three-phase approach to tackling the challenge. Then, of course, the government will ensure farmers get access to affordable fertilizer to enhance their productivity, and as well import 10 million bags of maize, that is to address the shortage. And the third measure is the importation by the state and the private sector of 300,000 tons of fertilizer before the next planting season. This is according to the president, and a story captured on page 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's all about the Jamhuri Day celebrations. Let's briefly look at what the People Daily details. More or less the same stories that we have seen this morning captured on these other papers. You will definitely get the conversation as to the People Daily and as to what really played out during the celebrations. Nelly Cheboi named CNN Hero of the Year, and we celebrate her. I think this is a conversation that has been there, just bringing that cheer and that feel of a win as a people of Kenya, having been represented well, and also in the World Cup, what is happening, and the tackle that was there, and Argentina tackle Croatia as they battle for chance to lift the World Cup trophy. So what the action has been about and what to expect. And of course, this away from it, it's about the digital plan by the Kenya Kwanza government. And we speak of scholarships, but most importantly, we speak of the numerous things that the government intends to do technologically to get innovators getting into the space of a win, and to get those ones that are creatives as well to get into that space of a win. Those ones that are in the world of business to embrace technology for success purposes. Those are the key things that have been captured on the People Daily. And now, allow us to take some stories that have been prepared by my team. We start off with this one. The tourism sector in Embu is peaking as the county government holds festivals that are aimed at promoting tourism in unexploited sites and cultural activities. This is speaking after the conclusion of a two-day event dubbed Embu Festival. The County Executive Committee in charge of Trade and Tourism, Jamal Runyenje, observed that the two-day events have brought in investment opportunities and exposed the county to more opportunities.
We have a successful Embu Festival. Tunataka kurudisha shukrani zetu kwa sponsors na organizers and also our colleagues in the county government for making the event successful. Hii festival iko na umuhimu sana kibiashara kwa sababu inaweza kufungua Embu County kama destination ya investment. Inaweza kufungua Embu County kama destination ya utalii, na nafikiri hata wageni wale wametembea siku ya leo mmeona ni wengi, na hakika wameleta some resources to the county.
And Kenyan philanthropist Nelly Cheboi has bagged the 2022 CNN Hero of the Year award. Cheboi had to quit a lucrative software engineering job in Chicago back in 2022 to create computer labs known as TechLit Africa for Kenyan school children, which have then seen thousands of students across rural Kenya have access to donated upcycled computers and the chance at a bright future, or for a bright future. With the award, she secured about a 1.2 million shillings cash reward and a 12.3 million grant to expand her work.
It's my honor. It's my honor to present CNN hero Nelly Cheboi.
There's just something about Anderson Cooper saying Mogocho that just gets me crying. My mom is here. I'll never forget the pain of poverty that still runs deep in my community. People dying of treatable diseases, parents sinking deeper into poverty just to educate their kids, and the lack of upward mobility for the most hardworking people in our communities. The hope that our work can empower people, give them skills to find a decent job, and fix poverty for good is the mountain I'm devoted to moving.
Well, congratulations. Now, over 100 civil societies from the East African bloc have come out to support the court's decision to halt the importation and distribution of GMO in the country. This is after the Kenya Kwanza government, under the leadership of President William Ruto, lifted the ban on importation of GMOs into the country. Chichi Josephine with that story.
Pamoja pamoja tunaweza.
Afrika Mashariki.
While holding a two-day dialogue conference to champion for indigenous seeds and biodiversity, the lobby groups and human rights activists denounced the lift on the ban on the GMO foods, saying that the decision to lift the ban was hurried and without public participation.
So, firstly, objectively,
During a consultative meeting, the civil society groups from Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania decried the importation of GMO, saying that it will disrupt the market structure as well as kill the local market for smallholder farmers.
Tunajua kuna kesi ambayo ilipelekwa kotini na Kenya Peasants League na wakapata ile stay, bani karudishwa, lakini tunasoma kwenye magazeti kwamba Attorney General anasema ata appeal, lakini itakuwa vyema kabla ya kuappeal waongee, tuketi kama washikadau kutoka mashirika yanayofanya kazi Kenya, wale ambao wanasema no to GMO, wale ambao wanasema yes, na ili tuweze kusema nao na kuwaeleza changamoto ama zile shida ambazo tunaona tukifungua soko letu ama mashamba yetu kuanza kupanda GMOs.
The groups have also raised concerns that GMO maize has a fair share of implications on biodiversity as well as the right of the farmers to produce and share their seeds for production.
Tunaiomba serikali ya Kenya kufikiri tena juu ya hii ruhusa walioitoa ya GMO, kuhakikisha kwamba inajipa muda zaidi wa kufanya tafiti, sio tu kwenye hayo mazao ambayo wataruhusu, lakini pia kwenye mazao ambayo wakulima wanayo, mbegu za asili walizonazo, kuhakikisha kwamba zile mbegu za asili zenyewe zinajibu maswali ya Wakenya.
The 2 days dialogue is expected to provide evidence on the implications of GMO as well as provide a roadmap on sensitizing the smallholder farmers on the implications of GMO and the importance of biodiversity and indigenous production in the East African bloc.
The strategies we are looking at, one is building a strong movement. Then also, of course, we have to generate more evidence to show, on the one side to prove that indeed there are solutions that have worked over time, which we believe that if they are adequately supported by our governments, then we wouldn't have any need for these GMOs.
Chichi Josephine, TV 47.
Now, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja has urged residents of Nairobi City County to show up in large numbers and attend Nairobi Festival that has kicked off. Exactly yesterday. This as the historic Uhuru and Central Parks were officially reopened to the public after facelift.
Speaking during the official opening of Uhuru and Central Parks, Sakaja has termed the festival as an opportunity for residents to showcase their talent, businesses and culture, calling on residents to attend the event that will run for the whole week and close with awards on December 17th.
Nairobi Festival inaleta kila mtu pamoja, vijana, wale wako na talent, mashabiki, artists, musicians, upcoming, wale washakuwa na kila kitu ambayo iko hapo katikati. Mpaka fashion, cheki hawa kwa stills.
Artists and business people who are taking part in the event have lauded the move by the county to organize such an event, calling on more artists to participate and showcase their creativity.
Sasa event ya leo siku ya Jamhuri tumesaidika sana. Wateja wamekuja kwa wingi, tumeweza kuuza. Nataka tukopate last fund. Sasa hii pesa hapa itatusaidia.
So niko na increased sales, then meet people wale nimekuwa nikiona for a very long time. I've seen different faces, and then also nimeona a lot of creativity and the way people can really show up when they're told to come in. And I'm looking forward to see what the government has for everybody, young people, women.
Some residents have called on other counties to organize similar events for the benefit of all Kenyans.
I'm a resident of Kiambu, but I just decided to come along. Tell them to come and benchmark with Nairobi.
Watoto wanapata maarifa poa sana kwa kila siku. So mi Kenya naweza sema tu hii event ikue every year. At least
it should be taken to other counties because it's something that brings a lot of creatives,
entrepreneurs together, people who have started businesses. It's something good, actually.
Among the activities that will take place in the festival include fashion and business exhibitions, song and dance, sporting activities, as well as competitions between crews of public service vehicles.
Well, it has been a good day indeed, with residents of Nairobi enjoying themselves with various activities that are going on here. This being the first day that this event has just started, and it will be running up to the weekend, that is the 17th of December this year. And we're expecting to see more action, more events, and more creatives coming along to share their stories, to share their cultures, to share their talents in this place at Uhuru Park. My name is Sylvia Nyongesa, reporting for TV47 at Uhuru Park, Nairobi.
Now, Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza has refuted claims that he has dumped Azimio la Umoja and joined President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza, saying his association with Ruto is to ensure that there is development at the county and it is not political, as many are insinuating. This comes amidst a speculation that the county boss and his deputy Ayub Savula have been lured to join Ruto's team, that is the Team Kenya Kwanza, 2 days after his tour in the county.
Speaking during the 59th Jamhuri Day celebrations that took place at Buhungu Stadium, Kakamega County Governor Fernandez Baraza and his deputy Ayub Savula have dismissed claims that they have dumped ODM and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance for Kenya Kwanza.
Tumekubaliana kwa kauli moja ya kwamba tunaenda kushirikiana na serikali kuu ikiongozwa na Rais Daktari William Samoei Ruto.
The two have maintained that they are still in Azimio, defending their recent close association with the head of state, President William Ruto. The two have said that they're already seeing the benefits of the collaborations between the two governments, among them the upgrading of Kakamega airstrip to airport, allocation of 3 billion shillings that will see the completion of the second phase, and equipping of the Kakamega Level 6 hospital and completion of roads across the county. Baraza has urged residents living near the airstrip to give land for its expansion, with the first flights expected to land there on Wednesday.
Watu wangu wa Murang'a, tafadhali, Rais alisema ya kwamba tukiongeza shamba ataleta pesa ili tuwe na airport kubwa hapo Kakamega. Kutusaidia kumaliza phase 1 of Kakamega Referral Hospital kwa kuleta shilingi bilioni 3.
Baraza also took the opportunity to warn the county government officials against corruption.
Kakamega has the most porous revenue collection system. That instead of collecting our potential of 5 billion shillings per year, our collections way below this target at 1.2 billion.
Deputy Governor Ayub Savula, on his part, has urged all leaders to support the government of the day for the benefits of locals.
Huyu Sarai atatolewa, mwingine anakuja. President alisema vizuri, tumwachie Mumias Sugar Company mwenyewe hapa.
This comes a day after President William Ruto's tour in the county, where he promised to work with every elected leaders regardless of their party affiliations.
As many continue speculating that Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza has moved from Azimio to Kenya Kwanza, Baraza has maintained that he's still in Azimio, but his collaboration with the national government is for development purposes and not political. Violet Auma, TV47, Kakamega.
Thank you, Violet, for that. Now, Kenyans from the 47 counties streamed at different venues to mark Jamhuri Day celebrations. A number of governors addressed Kenyans as some vowed to work with the national government for the benefit of Kenyans. Sharon Baranga with that roundup.
Happy Jamhuri Day! At Tendere Grounds in Kenyanya Sub-County, Kisii County, residents gathered for the Jamhuri Day celebrations. The Governor Simba Arati, affiliated to the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition, said he was ready to work with the national government for the benefit of Kisii residents. One of the main projects set to improve health sector in the county is a partnership between the county government, national government and the UK government.
For those ones on doubt, why I went to State House is because of this. I went to meet the President because of the Kenya-UK Health Alliance, where the UK export finance are pledged to give us $500 billion as a region, and they have, it's easy. And that's why I went to the State House.
In Migori County, the county commissioner urged leaders to work together so that they can fulfill promises they made to Kenyans. The celebrations were conducted at the Migori Stadium.
Creativity and innovation is the only way to lead this country to greater heights of transformation. You cannot move, you cannot transform. You need to change your behavior. You need to change our beliefs. We need to change our culture. There are cultures that are retrogressive in nature. There are cultures that are archaic.
The governor of Kirinyaga County has directed the closure of bars that do not have a license to operate. Bars in residential areas are also targeted in the operation.
Kwa hivyo siwezi endelea kukubalisha biashara ziendelee, wengine wanalipa na wengine hawalipi.
Bungoma County Governor led the Jamhuri Day celebrations from Amutala grounds in Kimilili. The governor wants the government to legalize locally brewed alcohol, for instance Busa, saying the bill was passed in parliament and it is yet to take effect.
Tulipitisha hiyo bill mimi nikiwa governor wa kwanza. Ile imebaki ni regulations. Hata tumeizungumzia leo, tumekuwa na cabinet kwamba tunataka tuharakishe mambo ya regulations ili hiyo bill iwe implemented.
In Kiambu County, the governor promised to ensure his government improves the health sector, which has been facing a number of challenges, including lack of medicines in hospitals.
Kama kunaye daktari yoyote bado amebaki Kiambu ambaye alikuja kufanya biashara na hakukuja kushughulikia matibabu ya wananchi, afunge virago. Aende awache kazi ya udaktari, aingie kwa biashara sasa halisi.
The county commissioner of Kisumu County has urged youth to make good use of the Hustler Fund to improve their quality of life. Meanwhile, the deputy governor wants the national government to address the cost of living in the country.
It's not a must that because your kazi mitani is not there that you're going to steal. No. Who said that you will steal if there's no kazi mitani? How many people are working who are earning their daily bread and they are doing decent job? How many do we have in this city? There are so many. It is not must for you to steal that just because kazi mitani just started recently. I think it's a year ago. So what were we doing before it? We have been using our own means of earning a living.
In Kitui County, the Jamhuri Day celebrations took place at Mumbuni Market. Leaders in attendance urged parents to take good care of their children, especially now when they are on long holidays. And in Siaya County, the Governor James Orengo said he was ready to work with the national government for the benefit of the residents. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
And in his first Jamhuri Day celebrations as the head of state, President William Ruto handed over the 23 Mechanized Infantry Battalion, that is MIB, its regimental colors that symbolize the highest mark of honor for any unit and whose loss would amount to the disbursement of the unit. And as Mike Kagungo reports, the Jamhuri Day celebrations were full of colors as Kenyans witnessed the newly established unit presented its first honor to the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces.
The commemoration of the 59th Jamhuri Day was President William Ruto's first for him since he became the Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces on August 30th, 2022. President Ruto presided over the first trooping of the colour ceremony for the new 23 Mechanized Infantry Battalion 23 MIB. The trooping of the colours was a significant transition for the 8th Infantry Brigade, as the 23 MIB will now be enhanced with more support including mechanized capabilities, like the use of armoured infantry fighting vehicles. The ceremony began with President William Ruto inspecting a guard of honour mounted by the Kenya Defence Forces Services of the Kenya Army, the Kenya Air Force and the Kenya Navy, escorted by the KDF Band. He was accompanied by the Chief of Defence Forces General Robert Kibochi.
presidential and regimental colors.
Mheshimiwa Rais hivi sasa akimkabidhi afisa atakayebeba bendera ya rais ya kikosi hiki cha 23 na kuhakikisha kwamba ameshika vyema bendera hii.
After the national anthem, the head of state inspected the guard of honor before the two flags. The regimental color and the presidential color will later be paid for. President Ruto later presented the two flags to two officers of the ranks of major to commission them power to protect the nation's boundaries.
Na kuuliza afisa huyu iwapo ameshika bendera hii vyema na kupeana heshima yake kwa bendera hii. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Rais kwa kuweza kutukabidhi bendera ambazo tutatumia kila wakati kwa ulinzi wa taifa.
The 23 MIB is a new team and is one of the units of the 8 mechanized infantry battalions currently located in Karare, Marsabit County. It was established in 2017 but became fully operational in 2018 and has continued to grow in personnel, skills and operational capacity, including being deployed to represent KDF in the East African Community Command Post exercise in Jinja, Uganda in 2019. Members from the infantry were in March this year deployed to Somalia under the African Transition Mission in Somalia. The colors embody the spirit of the regiment and the exemplary service performed by a specific regiment. The presidential color is trooped when a unit or base performs a national ceremony in which commander-in-chief or head of state of a foreign country is honored with a military parade. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
Well, it was termed the Jamhuri of Technology and Innovation, and with that came a lot of promises from President William Ruto as far as technology is concerned. Kenyans are now expected to access government services at home as the government plans to digitize all its services in the next 6 months. Collins Lusweti with that story.
Speaking at Jamhuri themed on technology and innovation, President William Ruto was full of promises as far as technology and innovation is concerned. Key among them, the transfer of 85% of government services to the digital space to do away with queuing.
This is a technology and innovation Jamhuri because we intend to transfer 85% of the remaining government services to the digital space so that every Kenyan, wherever they are, they do not have to get into any bus to go to get government services or queue in any line to access government services.
The president noted that the move was initiated by views collected from Kenyans during the Kenya Kwanza campaigns, who insisted they wanted the economy to be driven by technology. To actualize the transfer of the remaining 85% of government services to digital spaces, the head of state made it clear that his administration plans to build 100,000 kilometers of superhighway of internet across cities and towns.
When we went round, the people of Kenya told us that they want technology to drive our economy. And that is why we have decided that we are going to have a 100,000 kilometer superhighway that is going to be built to enable internet access our homes, our cities, our towns, and every part of the Republic of Kenya, because that is how we are going to be delivering government services going into the future.
At the moment, only 15% of government services are being offered digitally. Among them, KRA services such as returns filing, PIN checker, PIN application, customs goods declaration, among others. Business registration is also another service offered digitally. Others are services at the Immigration Department, such as passport application for adults and children. Services in the Ministry of Lands have also been digitized, together with civil registration services. In the new plans by the government, farmers across the country will also have to get used to online services following the president's announcement today that fertilizer subsidy program will be actualized via the e-voucher platform to eliminate cartels and conmen.
Going forward, our fertilizer subsidy program is going to be dispensed on the internet, on e-voucher so that we can eliminate brokers and eliminate cartels and ensure that targeted farmers have access to fertilizer.
Technology will also play a huge role in the universal health coverage with services offered on tech spaces.
Universal health coverage is going to be provided on a digital backbone and ensure that all health records are made portable, courtesy of technology, because that is the intention of our administration going into the future.
Collins Lusweti, TV47, Nairobi.
The president led the nation in marking Jamhuri celebrations, with the Kenya Kwanza government doing things differently. The Ruto-led regime, on its first national event, opted to have a theme with a focus on innovation and technology, with the president reiterating that this is an unexploited avenue that can offer job opportunities and well utilized. Moige William was at the Nyayo National Stadium following the events and filed the following report.
It was the second national celebration for the fifth President William Ruto to lead as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. This time round, the national celebrations were done differently, with a theme of innovation and technology. And apart from the usual guests invited for such celebrations, Ruto also invited world tech bosses to the national event.
And in our midst are friends and partners who today are our guests, and they have come to join us in this celebration. Leaders from the tech community and ecosystem.
The president revealed that his administration plans to build 100,000 kilometers of superhighway of internet across cities, towns and across the country to enable more Kenyans to tap into the opportunities in the technological space, which he pointed out will be able to create 1 million job opportunities.
Kenya is a country of great opportunity, especially in the tech space. And we deliberately chose that this Jamhuri is going to be about innovation and is going to be about technology.
On the same note, Ruto has reaffirmed his government's commitment to digitize all its services in a span of 6 months, targeting 5,000 services to be digitized. In his speech, apart from matters digital space, the president took time to remind Kenyans that his administration wants to bring down the cost of living, further noting that his administration will focus on the supply of subsidized fertilizer.
We intend to deliver our subsidy program on fertilizer, on e-voucher that is going to be available to 1.3 million farmers.
And as earlier promised by the government on rewarding scholarships to Kenyans who attended the Jamhuri Day celebrations, President Ruto announced that everyone present in the stadium will get a scholarship on global entrepreneurship and innovation.
It is time to innovate our way into the future. It is for this reason that with this Jamhuri, we as a nation are staking our claim by rallying Kenyans to begin the work of designing a world much richer, much safer and freer than the one we have known.
The next Jamhuri celebrations will be held in Embu County in the year 2023. President William Ruto has called on the nation to fully exploit opportunities in the tech world in a bid to bridge unemployment in the country. Moige William, TV47, Nyayo National Stadium, Nairobi.
All right, interesting. And of course, in the same breath, President William Ruto has lashed out at the opposition for opposing the Hustler Fund, that is terming the move as selfish. The president equally spoke while presiding over the Jamhuri Day celebrations. And of course, this is what he had to say, countering that aspect and as well, insisting on the importance of having aboard an opposition office.
In a week, his administration will be clocking 100 days in office. President William Ruto used his first Jamhuri Day speech to defend his track record in less than 4 months in office. The Hustler Fund was top on the president's agenda, when he accused the opposition of bastardizing his pet project at the expense of millions of Kenyans in dire need of affordable credit.
Be humane, be kind. Please allow the people borrowing on the Hustler Fund to also enjoy low interest rates the way you and your families are enjoying. Do not derail those Kenyans who have suffered for long from now accessing money on a digital platform.
The fund, launched 13 days ago, has already seen an uptake of 7.5 billion shillings so far, with 15.4 million Kenyans already on the platform, 1.1 billion shillings repaid, and 400 million shillings mobilized as savings. With the opposition set to hit the streets this coming January due to high food prices, President William Ruto moved in to explain the ripple effects of the fertilizer and seed subsidy program that will eventually lower food prices.
Our fertilizer subsidy program is going to be dispensed on the internet, on e-voucher, so that we can eliminate brokers and eliminate cartels and ensure that targeted farmers have access to fertilizer.
The president further took the opposition down memory lane on the second day after his inauguration on the swearing in of High Court judges and the independence of the National Police Service controlling its own budget, housing the competency-based curriculum and its charm offensive globally, which the president termed as productive. This year's Jamhuri Day celebrations coincides with a crucial week for President William Ruto on his 100 days promises in office, something Kenyans and the opposition at large are keen to remind him about. Apol Kamau, TV47 at the Nyayo National Stadium.
Thank you, Apollo Kamau, for that very story. Yes, Apollo was following up on this, as well as Moig William and some of the reporters that we've had across the country. And we try to just pack and unravel some of these things that they spoke about as leaders and what we expect as the people of Kenya moving forward 100 days into the Ruto presidency, or slightly days too. Then we ask ourselves, what have we managed to get? What is this that they had promised during the campaign times, and what they have managed to gather, what they haven't managed to, and what really stops them from that. The gentleman that joined me on set will be helping me to unpack some of these matters, even as we look at other issues that are taking center stage in the country and beyond. Remember, the hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47KE. That is how you get to interact with us. 22047 is the SMS short code. You can as well call us live. As you can see, the number is right on your screen. In the event that you'd love to be part of the conversation, the lines are pretty open for you to as well join us. Remember, this is a Tuesday, and when it comes to a Tuesday, it's about what is happening in the country and beyond. And as well, we get to shift gears to understanding matters business. And so today, we'll also be looking at a different conversation as pertaining to just planning yourself or planning your finances during the festivities. It will be a very interesting conversation as you shop around. And of course, shortly, I'll get you to that. But before it gets to that point, allow us to have the gentlemen introduced. And yes, we have two gentlemen. I am told that one should be here any moment from now. They'll be helping me decipher on some of these matters. You know, we all thought that it would not be very easy to have something to discuss, especially when the politics of the day goes down. But as it is, I think we have plenty to discuss. Yes, Nordin Kagai is here as well. I think now it's a full house affair. And so the gentlemen are all set. Systems go for us to get to have these conversations. Fairly young gentlemen. And so we just get to understand how innovation and technology then will come in handy to make our lives better. I can almost guess that we are on the same age, sort of set. So we have this very, very important conversation this morning because the future is with us. And I am taking time and buying my time so I would get to introduce this gentleman, because one of them has a very unique name, and is a person I know very well because he's been a friend of the Morning Cafe for the longest time I know. If there are people I can pinpoint and say this was we started with, then he has to be Alenga, who's a political analyst, Taurus Tadat. I keep finding it as a tongue twister to say that name. And this morning he says, "Hi, Linda, after all that while, I cannot remind you of the name." And so it's good to have you after a very long time. How are you?
Fantastic, Linda.
Karibu sana.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. He used to like doing the Zoom thing, but now today we had to wake him up very early. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And so much has been happening, Nordin will tell you.
Indeed.
Because again, he took up the space from you, but we're glad that you are together, as well as Iliad Ngugi, who's a lawyer. Wakili has been here for the better part of the times of the elections. I think we had Wakili. It was all about the conversations of what to expect. And here we are, we have a government, and I'd love to hear his view on what is happening. Wakili, how have you been?
I've been okay. Thank you very much for having me.
Karibu sana.
Yes.
Asante sana. Nordin.
Yeah.
Mambo.
Salama kabisa.
Nordin Kagai is as well a wakili. Thank you so much for creating time to be with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes, yes. We do not relent. We do not stop from talking about these things, which are very, very important. And to start us off, I think we all have seen the story of Nelly Cheboy, who has successfully been feted as, of course, the CNN hero as pertaining to what she's done in relation to technology. And since it's been a Jamhuri of technology and innovation, I think it's only fair that we take a moment to appreciate what she's done, you know, just quitting her job and getting into a space, you know, that is pretty much murky. A space that has been difficult even for governments to manage, and she has managed successfully to be fitted. I think it's only fair that we appreciate and celebrate her, and she finds herself on all the papers, the front page of the papers. And so yes, Nelly Cheboy, to you.
I think the story of Nelly is very encouraging, especially to the younger generation and people that are also thinking of offering solutions to the societies they live in. But it is also a deep indictment to our own government, in the sense that it doesn't take CNN for us to discover a hero who is Kenyan. So if the conversation is so silent about Cheboy in Kenya, nobody has ever fitted her, nobody has ever recognized her. We have, yesterday we had the president giving out the
recommendations, and yes.
Yeah, and you look at that list, and there are people you look at in that list and you wonder, what have they really done? So ours is, I think it's just, we have a lot of jokes that we have to wean ourselves off them and really award rightful winners and people who deserve to be fitted by the state, so that it encourages other people elsewhere to do the same thing, and then it tells our story to the world before the world actually tells us our own story. That was really it's a means for us, and it's not only for Cheboy. There's very many people. You remember the teacher who was who got the global teacher award. There's Kabale who got the best nurse, and all these stories are coming from abroad. So we just plug in and we say, oh, this is our own. But then locally, do we have mechanisms? Do we have systems that recognize our own people, that document what citizens are doing, and therefore have a system we can use to reward you?
And the state commendation, perhaps this brings us to that, maybe to start with you, Nordin, is one that I know many have questioned for the longest time. Perhaps even this one, you know, as President William Ruto is doing it for the very first time, has been questioned. But then again, it's his prerogative as the head of state, pinpoints and looks at those ones that he terms, you know, worth celebrating. But then we ask ourselves, do we really get into depth to understanding what it is that, you know, Alenga is speaking about, understanding the nitty-gritty details, you know, the criteria that would be good enough to award these people, so that even when they are awarded, we feel like indeed they have done something worth celebrating.
You see, the sad reality is that we award politicians mostly. In our country, they are seen as the heroes, you know, in quotes. And these commendations, for you to get one, depends on proximity to power. If you're not closer to the authority, then of course you won't get them. And that is why you see, he has quoted a couple of people. That's why you see we never actually commend those who deserve it. When you look at, for example, our sportsmen and women, out there they're treated as kings and queens. But when they come here, we don't even value them. I had Kipchoge saying the other day, when they're out there, they can't even believe the reception they get out there. But in here, we let them run. Once they put us on the map, we clap for them. Once they retire, we let them languish in abject poverty. Nobody cares about them. And a good example is Congestina. You see, it is so sad to see only someone like Mike Sonko who can actually try and help her. So at the end of the day, we need a reset button. If you ask me, most of those who got them yesterday don't deserve it. But at the end of the day, proximity to power, friends to those who are actually handing them those commendations, and that's where they get it.
But just how important are they? Maybe Eliud, just how important is a presidential commendation anyway, in as much as they will always add this to their titles?
I actually don't see any benefit to that commendation. Because one, if no one knows much about you and that commendation is on your name title,
for the sake of,
it doesn't do anything. It doesn't maybe even give you a job or bring food to your table. It's just a recognition that the president has noted that maybe you have done something significant in this country, and that's what we believe the people who were fitted yesterday have done. Yet it's questionable what they have really done. But there's nothing much about state commendation. It's basically just a recognition that you can basically use to maybe show that, well, you have done something for this country. Yeah.
All right. And of course, this takes us to that space of innovation and technology, speaking largely as to what it is that the president termed necessary. And perhaps for the very first time, we have, a clear labeled or a clear themed Jamhuri Day. And I was asking the gentleman that I had on set yesterday, is this a way of running away from the actual theme of Jamhuri Day, which is well known, and to a point of us bringing to the fore new things, in as much as we're trying to adjust to the current situation, to the current generation? Couldn't we have found better ways and different days to speak to technology and innovation as opposed to Jamhuri Day? Or this is in order?
I think in this country, over the last decade or so, we have adopted what we call motivated reason. Like, you try to supply yourself evidence against something that you actually know. So as it were, Jamhuri Day is a day to celebrate our independence, and in that note, then we recognize certain people that contributed to that journey. But because we have a tendency of creating our own heroes according to how they help us, and what my friend Nudin said, proximity to power, we have decided to act out something totally different from what these days are meant for. You remember even Mashujaa Day, we would have...
Originally, it wasn't Mashujaa Day. It was what, Moi or Kenyatta Day?
It was Kenyatta Day. So when we got it to Mashujaa Day, when you listen to the conversations that are advanced on that day, you see there is denial to recognize certain people. And then, so we further that into Jamhuri Day, because then it will give us an opportunity to face the reality and actually say so and so contributed in this particular manner, this family contributed in this particular manner. And then if you realize in the past, the Jamhuri Day has always had a lot of premium on the founding fathers of the nation. And if you look at the government of William Ruto, it sort of tries to antagonize that existing framework and to give us a different narrative. But then the most fundamental question we should be asking is it good for posterity? Is it good for history? Are we supposed to be custodians of history or disruptors of history? And when we continuously dismantle our history, and then that gives us a citizenry that is under-informed. And that is what the modern regime wants. The modern regime wants a citizenry that is under-informed, so that it is very easy to sell to them pleasantries, and they have no background of that resilience to follow up and ask questions. So we just believe what we hear today as though it exists in a new space. But we have a past to refer to, we have a present, and we have a future that we are going to. For us to progressively move as a country, then we need to reconcile these three parts of our lives. So if we knock off one, then we sort of find it difficult to inform ourselves about our future.
Yeah.
You know, they say if you know where you're coming from, then you will know where you're going to.
Sure. Okay, have we lost this in totality and the history and the importance of it? I was having a session with very important people who've been here long enough, and they cry for the nation because they say out of learning history and in-depth history and actually living and eating history, out of such events, it was very, very important for them, because then there's that aspect of belonging, there's that aspect of understanding that, you know, we have to go back and see what our forefathers fought for and put up a fight even more. As time goes by, as we embrace technology, are we losing what really once defined us?
Well, you know, we have to move with the times, that is for sure. But when it comes to a point where we feel, or certain people feel, that we're trying to erode our history, then it becomes a danger, because you see, we learn from history.
Yeah.
We get to learn, like right now, there's this conversation for the amendment of the Constitution. So we are going back to the independent Constitution. Why was it amended in the first place? You know, so we learn from certain things that happened in the past to prevent them occurring again in future. But when we erode that, then we fall in danger of leaving what those who fought for or fought against. So it comes back to us. So it becomes a cycle where we are now we're going back to the first base, fighting for certain freedoms that have actually been cemented at the moment. I believe the vibe I got from yesterday was 2013. Jubilee, that was TNA or tumetoka analog to digital. That is how I felt, you know, and a lot of promises were given. I really hope they are achieved, like monetization of social media.
Yes.
No, if that is done, that's a game changer.
Yes.
But if it's not done, it becomes another promise and becomes an empty one. But I tend to believe that I won't castigate the government or anything. I really hope they succeed in everything that they're promising, because when they succeed, we as Kenyans succeed. But when they fail, then we get back to square one. But I believe the saddest part about yesterday was that it was a hero's day. When you check the dailies, the front page was the widow to Dedan Kimathi.
Yes.
She's saying, allow me to bury my husband before I die. No one talked about that.
But you see, we have been talking about this, and I think I saw that, and I asked myself, you know, all the times, all the years I've practiced journalism, there's not a single time during Jamhuri Day, maybe Madaraka Day, that I haven't spoken about this widow. And then we ask ourselves, it's one point to speak about it. It's another for us to get results. Just what is this that stops us from getting that? Allow us to take a short break, and then we come back from that. We'll come back on that very note.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Utakubaliana nami kuwa wapenzi ambao hawajafanikiwa kubarikiwa na watoto huhangaika mno kabla ya kupata suluhisho la kudumu. Bisara na Bwana Heinz kutoka Ujerumani wanatueleza jinsi walivyonasuliwa baada ya panda shuka na mapito mengi, lakini baada ya kuwatembelea madaktari wa Makini Herbs Clinic walifanikiwa kumpata mtoto.
Tulipokutana mara kwanza, yeye alikuwa anataka mtoto na pia mimi nilikuwa nataka. Kwa fight like 1 year hatukufanikiwa. Akaniambia the best way tuende kwa daktari tukaangaliwe. Tukakaa kuangalia tuenda wapi, tukapata tukaambiwa tuende Makini.
I come from Germany near Frankfurt. I'm very happy to stay here on this place in Makini Clinic. My body is full with energy since I have the baby.
Katika Makini Herbal Clinic, magonjwa mengi yakiwemo sugu hutibiwa. Kwa maelezo zaidi wasiliana na Makini Herbal Clinic kwa nambari za simu zifuatazo.
Wetu wa Kenya, Mwenyezi Mungu ametujali.
Usiyakubalie maumivu ya misuli kukatiza ratiba yako. Kaluma Pain Balm ni dawa ya kusugua iliyotengenezwa kutoka kwa miche maalum ili kutuliza maumivu ya misuli.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast. With me in studio, Nordin Kagai. We also have Elliot Ngugi as well as Alenga.
Tourist head.
Tourist head. Yeah, it's good to have you, gentlemen. And we still are on yesterday's events and, definitely just looking at what the president had to say, his acknowledgement of the hits and misses of his government 100 or 90 days into it and what he seeks to do moving forward. And we ask ourselves, the commendations, just how important are they? Was that the very question that we left it at? No,
yeah.
Was it? Yes, that was a very bit.
I think
we got into a conversation and also lost it. Yes.
Yeah. Before we went on the break, I said, you see, the sad reality is, like you said, you always have these conversations during Jamhuri Day.
Yes.
We talk about those heroes who fought for independence, and nothing is done. It's all about the will. See, maybe they see them as, maybe they don't feel that they deserve certain things. But it's sad because for the widow to come out and say she needs to bury her husband, honestly, first and foremost, that's going to be a tall order.
But then again, Nordin, let's play the devil's advocate for a moment and try and ask ourselves, why is it that even with the change of leadership, this widow has not successfully managed to have her cries, hit to? I am looking at this story that has been captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper, expounded on page 12 and 13. It's more of a book and, of course, speaks of the dark secrets of the British Empire that maimed, killed, and overtaxed Kenyans. And sometimes you try and read on these stories and you realize that it's beyond the hands of the leadership that we have. That sometimes, it has to be about the kingdom, it has to be about the monarch. And I remember was it not you who was complaining about the death of Queen Elizabeth and said, we cannot celebrate a thing. It was you and Eric Regalo. Yes? And so it reminds us of their hand in all this conversation of us, gaining an independence, what they went to, what they went with back to their very own homes and what they left us and the existence of neo-colonialism. Is it beyond the capabilities of the leadership that gets on board? Because just why are we talking about these things for years and nothing is being done?
I don't think it's beyond the government of the day, because this year we had, among the few African presidents who attended the Queen's burial, was our president. Yeah. The monarch and the king now, they are accessible people who, our president, who I think is on his way to the US, is able to access, is able to actually have a sit down with these individuals and actually have the plea of Mokami had and deliver the body after this long. Actually, those are the conversations you should have had yesterday, whereby we should have fitted and gone back to the history, looked at maybe even the second generation. But it feels like this government did not learn much from the third president of this country, who would speak less and act more. What we are seeing is a lot of talking by the current government, just giving promises, talking about the plans, talking about we are going to do this and that, but they are talking a lot, yet we are not seeing anything. And so maybe if they are listening, if these people cared about the Kenyans, cared about the common mwananchi, they should actually listen to the common mwananchi, act, and then maybe after 5 years, during these celebrations, we should borrow even from Tanzania. We should be able to look back and say, this is what I have done when I was in power. And also something else, talking about Tanzania, why are we even spending millions of shillings in an event? Why can't we learn from Suluhu, president of Tanzania, who decided to take a portion of that amount of money that was meant to be used for the celebrations of independence in Tanzania to actually spend it on schools. In Kenya right now, we know that we're talking about a hustler fund that is being charged an interest. Why not take that amount of money, maybe even add it, top it up on that, pay the Chinese their loan, the money that belongs to them? Why are we spending time fitting people who are close to the power and trying to make us look like maybe a first world country that is not having any issues? We have issues in this country, and the government of the day should actually reconsider its priority. And the priority here is, one, we need to remember who fought for our independence and take care of those people, one of them being Mukami, who has been featured in our papers. Number two, we need to take our issues of the day, the economies of the day, and maybe look keenly on them. Look at our loans. Look at the cost of unga. Instead of spending that kind of money, maybe feeding people at State House to commemorate a day that is not related to them. Yes, maybe we need to reconsider those things.
Interesting. And the president takes time to look at some of the things that he has achieved as the head of this government, and what he seeks to achieve moving forward, 100 days or 90 days and getting to 100 days of his, reign. Do you suppose he has done so well so far?
I think it's going to be 100 days tomorrow. Yeah. I think there's a lot of misses, but again, we have to contextualize some of these things.
Yeah.
This was a transitional regime. We are coming from a different regime into another one. But again, he's not a visitor into Jerusalem because he was in the previous regime. So the inheritance process was a little bit faster than it would have been maybe for somebody who was just coming into office for the very first time. However, it's also imperative for us to look at the challenges that were there and how we've been able to tackle some of those challenges. The most significant of all was the ever-rising food prices and the cost of living in general. Has anything been done towards that? The answer is no, because the price of unga still hangs where it was. The price of fuel still is still suspended where it was. And if there is any change, it was 1 shilling drop, which is almost the same. The difference is the similarity. So we are in terms of the cost of living, we are where we were, if not worse than that. And then there's now the introduction of issues like GMO, which now generates a whole debate altogether. So, in my opinion, the issue of GMO would have been discussed further to tell Kenyans, are we allowing our research agencies to develop certain strains of crops that are resistant to certain environmental issues locally, and then generate those seeds and we have them planted by our farmers? Or are we going to bring in already harvested GMO crop? That would be complicated because we do not know what is the regime that particular country used to get that harvest. So that's an issue that was supposed to be ironed out by the government, so that people understand, are we empowering our own research institutions, or we're just getting the crop? Which means if that was the case, then that would be a no. Then from the issue of high cost of living, then we come to the issue of the discombobulation with the education, the education system, the CBC. I think when this new regime came in, it made things even worse. So you're asking yourself, what do you explain to these learners who felt they are sitting a grade 6 examination that would transit them to another level? Then now you're referring them back to the same schools they had said bye to, and then you are saying laboratories will be built in each school, and yet schools are opening on the 23rd of January. We have not seen any construction beginning anywhere. So we just have to sit and hope that by some streak of magic, on 23rd January, there will be that extra classroom in those schools. There will be that laboratory in those schools. What are we even doing to our children? You see, so that's a question that's still open to the regime of the day. You come to the issue of security. how have we addressed our security both internally and the activities of our military outside our territory. For me, sending troops to DRC was a miss because the cost that comes with that was a gargantuan cost at a time when we are struggling with domestic issues like feeding our own people. So you can imagine how much it's going to cost you to keep 1,000 troops in DRC while people are dying in Turkana, basically because they cannot afford a meal a day. You know? So how we are balancing our imperatives is what still confuses me with the trajectory that the government has taken. The conversation about ICT is not about promises. It's not about what you tell the people. It's about budget. ICT is about budget. Even if you sit in the offices, keep quiet and roll out the budget, ICT will work. And then that ICT, there is no single government in Africa that can purport to do what the regime of the day is promising about ICT, roll out 100,000 kilometers of fiber without telling us, without calling for a PPP, public-private partnerships with telecommunication companies that are already in the market, and seeing how they balance how they try to work out with them, because those companies will inform the government where are the green areas in terms of fiber rollout, where are the brown areas in terms of fiber rollout, and then how do you reconcile that gap? So government just standing on a podium and saying we are going to do this, it's really not it's really not workable.
All right.
Lastly, we have the issue of affordable housing. Affordable housing is an issue that the government threw to us, but they did not tell us the how. You know, if I have if there's a unit going for 4.5 million, let's say, for instance, what is the payment plan, you know, and how much am I supposed to pay and for how long? Because if you look at the figure they were saying that this would be the minimum figure, you would need about 60 years to clear that loan, that mortgage. So is it even possible?
It's not even possible. Realistically speaking, it becomes a challenge. And yes, let's look at some of the promises that, Alenga would call the podium promises, but just how realistic they are is one of the things that we're questioning today. And what has been captured in the papers, and what, of course, we saw the president articulating to build about 100,000 kilometer digital superhighway, that is to allow access to home, cities, towns, and every part of Kenya, and transfer about 85%, that is about 5,000 services of the remaining government services to the digital space in the next 6 months. I'd love to understand how the digitization of land cases, or generally land, happened or has gone on in Nairobi, just how successful it has been. Then from there, we can confidently say that this one really is a success. Deliver fertilizer subsidy to 1.3 million farmers through e-voucher to eliminate brokers and cartels. Deliver about 1 million tech jobs in partnership with technology and digital space leaders. Then I'd want to assume therein sits the private entities as well. Actualize the dream of home ownership by delivering housing units with monthly installments of between 2,500 and 10,000. It's the 60 years that you're speaking about, and just how realistic that is. Kenya Industrial Estates to provide coaching and mentorship to about 100,000 entrepreneurs, and confer citizenship to the Pemba people living in Kilifi County. Process has started. At least that one is likely to happen, because we have seen a majority of them being lucky. The recent, or the most recent one, is the Ndebele. I think it should be the Ndebele.
And Makonde as well.
Yes, in Makonde as well, and those are the Ndebeles from Zimbabwe.
Yes.
And
the Shona.
Yeah, the Shona. Yeah. Yes, there's the Shona, and then there's the Ndebele. Yes, the Shonas. Yes, from Zim. And partner with Nairobi County to recruit at least 11,000 youth to grow a minimum of 1.5 million trees in the city's open and public spaces. Chiefs to rally people to grow 3,000 trees weekly, and rebuild and monetize sports and creative industry through the Talanta Hela plan. Wakili wako wawili hapa, Wakili Eliud.
You know, we are actually laughing at when you mentioned the land's digitization process, because this is close to heart as a practitioner of conveyancing. whereby there's nothing actually that is ongoing at the Ministry of Lands in Nairobi. That whole platform called Avisasa has not been delivering any services.
Yeah.
You make inquiries on the status of your transfer, and the current status is that all the files were moved by the former CES of lands to a place called Survey of Kenya, and they don't know why they were moved. And so we are sitting, there is no transaction ongoing. The banks have made their cry, they made their complaint, whereby they said that 100 billion, over 100 billion Kenya shillings is stuck because of that so-called platform that is not working. And so if we are going to digitize the rest of the services in this country, first of all, we need to make sure that the ones that we have already implemented are actually working. And so that is just an example, and I don't know whether anyone is watching because so much is stuck. There's no money exchanging hands to the common mwananchi that we were expecting to actually improve their lives. And so that is one. The digitization has not worked, and the government needs to stop blocking its ears to this issue. Number two, on the other issues that the government may have contributed to so far in the last 90 days. Okay, one of them, again, close to my heart. The other day we had a swearing in of 20 new judges of the High Court. There were the 6 other Court of Appeal judges who had not been sworn in in the other regime, who the president on his first day made sure that was done. That's an improvement and something that we can say that the Ruto's government has been able to achieve. The question is, are we moving our cases? Are we seeing justice in our courts? Have we, right now, if you show up in court, the nearest date that will be given to you for a hearing will be sometime in June, especially in the environmental and land courts. They don't have enough capacity to actually handle most of our cases. And so you seek justice and you have to wait for this justice for so long. And so I implored the government to maybe consider constructing more courts, swearing in more judges, and making sure that we have justice being granted in this country. There's so much that has not been done in this 100 days, and maybe that's why I'm saying that the government needs to keep quiet. It needs to get to work.
Work in silence.
Yeah, work in silence and not show up. We don't need to see them on TV every day making promises. They need to start working.
How can you work in silence when the Right Honorable Raila Odinga is around? How can you?
I think once you're giving the mandate to lead a country, you know what to do. You don't even need to remind us. We take toll. You know, we say like, oh, today this was commissioned. That was done. So in the same breath, I'd really want to congratulate the president for the move on confirming the state position of an
opposition.
Of the stateless communities. In the
all right. Yes.
Yeah, and then the same breath, he should actually extend the same to the Nubian community, the Pare community in Taita Taveta, and those other smaller groups, because at this time in Africa, we shouldn't be entertaining the issue of stateless communities. People who look like us, they speak like us, but yet they still have certain things that they cannot achieve because of their state.
But this one of the Nubian community, don't you think it has more than meets the eye? Because if there is a community then that should be confirmed, at least this one should have been, because if you go to Kibra, literally, it is the Nubian community. And we have gone to spaces where, you know, it's deep, the Ogiek and all that to confirm them, and not to confirm the Nubian one. Is there more than meets the eye?
It's all about politics. You know, the Nubian community has been associated with the politics of Kibera and the politics of the opposition, you know, where Raila began his politics. So I think they became collateral damage. But there's a very a deeper issue that Wakili here has brought to the table about the courts, you know, and litigation in this country is still an interesting space, because you wonder, you know, when you look at politicians having cases, their cases are expedited. The same courts that do not have room for your matter, the same courts that will keep giving you mention after mention after mention, will expedite the case of a politician, and in 2 days you'll have had the determination, the cash bail would have been paid, and they will still be on the podium telling us how innocent they were. But when it comes to a normal person, you know, the common person here on the streets, you have an issue in the courts and you have to run and run. Sometimes somebody stays in remand for a period longer than even his sentence, if he had, you know, accepted he was guilty, and you find someday there's witnesses are missing, the investigation officer is not there, the prosecution has not read through the files. All that is happening in our courts. So it continues to be difficult for ordinary people to access justice in our courts. So every day you see the president is swearing in judges, but does that translate to the efficiency of justice in the courtroom? So that's what we need to have. If that conversation can go beyond just swearing in the judges to ensuring that Kenyans get justice, you know, even that accused person needs the matter to be finalized so that they know whether they are going to jail or they are going back to start a new life, you know. And also when we look at the space of you know, some of these promises are so superfluous, like, you know, we'll create this number of digital jobs, we will hire 11,000 young people to plant 1.5 million trees. You know, we have to come to a space where we start talking about sustainability. How sustainable are these ventures, you know? And I think our government should reach a place where we now start tackling the how. And in my opinion, if we could collapse all these promises into even 3 urgent issues
and implement them successfully,
like, okay,
you know?
This regime, you know, like, say, we are very honest that Kenya has a lot of problems, but where we are in this space and place, we can fix only 3. We will be very grateful. But when we hear, we will. And then when you look at President Ruto's promises, most of them are budget promises. Then it comes to the question of our efficiency in managing public funds. How well do we manage public funds? So if we have promises that are always calling for the exchequer to dish out some money, and then now the problem is following this money to ensure the beneficiaries get this money. Look at something like the Hustler Fund. We do not have yet metrics to determine whether we are reaching the correct category of people that we targeted, or are we just dishing out this 500 bob to Kenyans who want to contribute and buy Muzinga on Friday, and then they can pay on Monday, you know? So is it working? Is it workable? Is it a solution that is working, you know? And then the legal framework around the whole thing. How is this money being dispensed? What is the source of the funds? What is the legal framework that regulates this kind of lending, you know? So when we have a president who just wakes up in the morning and plugs 50 billion into the economy, and there's no proper structures, we do not even know who is dishing out this money. Whose money is it? Because it was never approved by parliament. It was never approved by any budgetary body in the country. So how does this money just fall or drop into the economy? Those are fundamental questions that need to be asked.
And speaking of the money, and speaking of how the president then is handling some of these things, and I think I asked whether he could perform in silence or in silence without the, you know, or in the presence of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. But even before it gets to that, very important point that you bring to the fore, where do we get these monies from? And I think most of the people have been asking, where is the Hustler Fund coming from? In as much as then officially after the launch, we saw entities willing to come in and contribute. We saw, you know, banks saying that, well, we would want to contribute into that very kitty. But just how then can the president handle some of these matters without risking numerous court cases? Court cases like what happened with the Jubilee government, to a point where, you know, the president was, you know, accused of being one of the presidents who's literally been in contempt of court throughout his reign because of some mistakes that, well, he appeared to have done without, giving it a second thought. That lack of public participation. The Right Honorable Raila Odinga was cautioning the president the other day, saying that, even when you speak about giving us an opposition office, have you sat down to think of what really was the downfall of the BBI? That aspect of this initiative being spearheaded by the president himself, and was countered in court on basis of that. So just how can he manage some of these things without risking the numerous court cases that would lie ahead?
He's already late because there's a case against Hustler Fund. There's a case in court. So he's already late to the party.
Yeah.
And this issue of the amendment, there will be a case in court. You see, at the end of the day, there's this hangover of the old constitution. Most of them served under that constitution.
Yeah.
So this one is more or less like a hindrance. And that is why they will find challenges trying to adjust into it. And what we need to be aware of is that the president, when he was campaigning, he talked about never seeking loans. This government, this serikali, inaomba deni. He has moved around and he has sought loans. So we need to ask ourselves, where is that money being taken to? That's a question that we don't know. You get? So we are hearing so many things being, like we said, they are working in, they're making a lot of noise through promises. But my question is, where did their manifesto go to? 3/4 of these promises are new things.
For sure.
They are new things. Okay. Ask yourself, was that manifesto a mere document? You were reading those promises there, and I was in stitches here. You know why? First and foremost, you've forgotten the biggest promise yesterday. Yesterday was meant to be a scholarship day.
Yes.
You're meant to be handed over like confetti. You get me? But people got there with their kabambes and they're being told, scan a QR code. So you're asking yourself, what is this again? That in itself is wrong because those things, those scholarships have been there. I've had that thing for an entire week. In my phone, the link. Yes. It has been there and they have been free. But you see, the issue about masses, our political class are obsessed with having a huge crowd.
So it was about enticing
yesterday,
crowd.
Yesterday in Uasin Gishu, the county commissioner went after the chiefs telling them, why are these seats empty? This is the president's home turf.
Yes.
Why
can we have
I have come here, I'm very senior. The governor is very senior. Why don't you have people? Next time, this place has to be full. So it's an obsession with the masses. And that's why yesterday was meant to be an Arizona kind of day. Scholarships like confetti, And it's very sad. There's something you've talked about, an e-voucher. Let's be honest and let's be real. That is hard because first and foremost, you have to take through these farmers a lot of processes,
Yeah.
The issue about fertilizer that I wonder is, why do we have to keep importing fertilizer?
Right.
Why can't we have even 5 factories in Kenya? Make it available, cheap, high quality fertilizer. The rest we can export. Why do we have to import? But we talked about cartels. That cartel is then courtesy of importation at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So a lot of promises are being given. And for me, I can tell you today, and we'll confirm later, the only one that will be achieved there is the Pemba one. The others are going to be, a lot of challenges will be seen.
Okay.
And it's very sad because my question is, where did the Kenya Kwanza manifesto go to? Or was it just a document for us to put in our library?
Some of these things not aligned to that manifesto. Allow us to take a short break and then we come to Wakili Eliud to just ask the very same question. Do we still have the Kenya Kwanza manifesto? And is it really going to be practical at the end of the day as we look forward to see the government work for us after this break?
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians.
Welcome back to Morning Cafe. The hashtag is Morning Cafe @Linda_Lela TV47KE across all our social media platforms. 220447 is the SMS short code. I see we have lots of feedback, and we continue with the conversation later on to look at that which you have to say. Yes, the gentlemen in studio, we have Alenga, we still have Eliud as well as Nordine. And on that very important note of the aspect of technology, that Nordine argues, that, well, genuinely we've had this link for the longest of time, but the excitement is also real for those ones that did not know of the existence of this. And even worse is that we really are not that tech savvy, even going back to the phones that we have, and we are marching into the stadium expecting to benefit from what it is that the president has to give us.
There's nothing new that is being offered by his new so-called government, Kenya Kwanza government. The monetization of social media has been there. If you're on social media today, there's some content that you have to pay for. Yeah. On Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, you have to pay for certain content. And this has been going on for, I believe, 2-3 years. 2 years for now. And so the government of the day is telling us nothing new, and what maybe we need, again, we go back to the same conversation, is that content on Facebook and on Instagram that they're going to monetize. He even gave his own example saying that he has over 1 million followers and so he'll be making so much money. Is that going to feed the lady up there in Turkana or Marsabit who are suffering from this drought? Is that going to help the farmer in a Eldoret or up country where they need the fertilizer to actually make sure that they have a product to sell in the next 6 months? That does not help such a Kenyan. So the issue on monetization is basically to just try and maybe blind the young people of this country. The young people of this country, most of them who are found in our major towns, need jobs. They don't need to be on their phones and computers. They need actual jobs whereby they'll be able to make a living, to buy unga. And that's what we need to focus on, to be able to afford to move from one place to another. So maybe we need to relook at how do we provide food on the table and not talk about things that we have been reading about, things that some of us know about, scholarships which some of us don't need those scholarships because as in we have had enough universities. The government provided free education. They just introduced the CBC that is supposed to actually empower people to actually use their talent and progress on. So we need to focus on those things first. The CBC. We don't know where the junior high is going to be and what rooms they are going to be using in January. We need to actually have those conversations, not talk about how you can monetize your Facebook and your whatever. An example has been given, I think, when we were on break, about China, whereby their algorithm is totally different from ours. they empower and make sure that you learn how to do things in China. You will not find people doing the Asiat dances who was being clapped for and actually celebrated yesterday for her TikTok dances. In China, they will tell you how to maybe repair furniture and how to repair a phone. Such content is what is actually found in China. It's not simple dances and simple maybe jokes and humor that we have in this country, that we are trying to tell our young people, go ahead and now make music that has no content. Go ahead and now start insulting or doing things just to have a following. In China, we encourage people to do things, and in this country, we came up with a CBC. We came up with an education system that is meant to, that is teaching our children at home how to do things. We need to first to look at constructing those classrooms, seeing where these young people will go once they graduate from the high schools and the primary schools. And then from there, it's a progressive process. And that's why we're saying, let the president and the government work in silence. Let them finish the projects which were started. We came on their first day and said that they are not going to construct new roads. They are going to finalize the many roads that were started. Let them finish that first. They came and said they are going to lower the cost of living. Let them do that.
Are they not going to risk so much? And I think I started by asking Nordin on that question of contempt of court, because even in the process of saying that, well, they can work in silence, there's very little that they can do that. And I really do not understand in this context just what working in silence then would mean, because there are instances where you will have to have public participation, you have to involve the masses, you have to involve other stakeholders, you have to involve, you know, even the opposition, if there is an opposition, just so they know that we are on track, just so they would be questioned on the process in case there is something that, you know, requires that questioning, so that they proceed well. And so if they choose to say that, you know what, chini ya maji, tufanye hizi alafu then voila, let's wake up and surprise all these people and tell them this is what we've done. Is that really what we require for in this space of democracy that we've really fought for?
Linda, let me say that if you do a good job, if for example today you completed a road somewhere and the Marua, let's say give that example in Nyeri, that Marua highway, if you completed that road or you extended the expressway all the way to Mombasa, the media is, you're here as a media, you'll be able to highlight that. And if the East or the West see that kind of good work, they will come to you, they are going to knock your doors and they will be saying, hey, we can see you're doing a very good job and we would like to be part of these projects. We would like to know how can we actually be part of your process? How can we actually empower you? How can we support you so that we can grow together as the East, for example, or the West? And so you don't have to keep going to the media stations. You don't need to go to churches and stadium and keep talking about, oh, this is what we are going to do. This is what we are implementing. You don't need to say that. You just need to implement, and your good work is going to shout out there, and you get all the support that you need.
This is a government we're talking about. This really is a government that we're talking about. That is why today we ask, where is their manifesto? Because in relation to their manifesto, we see some discrepancies. Just what is in a manifesto, and just how successful would a government manage to work in silence and surprise the people?
You know, they say you are always as strong as your weakest link. If you look at this regime, it had a very, if we are very honest, Kenya Kwanza had a very good manifesto. If there was will to deliver that manifesto, then Kenya would tremendously change. But now the problem that we had is, on the onset of this regime, we saw the selection of their cabinet. And looking at that set of names already, we saw signs of failure. Because it was really more of, you know, just dishing out positions. Looking for who was very much in support but failed an election somewhere, let's bring them back. So when you consolidate your cabinet based on that, then you definitely get square pegs in round holes. And that's where we are exactly. Because if you look at most of the people in that cabinet and then you just retire to ask yourself what different contribution they can bring to the Kenyan government, there is none. There is none.
Yeah.
And that is like almost 3/4 of those names. So if you already have a cabinet that has no initiative, has no self-drive, and that is the kitchen of the government, that's where things are cooked, you know. So clearly there will be no smoke coming from that kitchen, and therefore no aroma altogether.
Yeah.
Number two, if you look at William Ruto as a person, I really admire his character because he's a go-getter. He fights for, he pushes and doesn't take a no for an answer. But then it's also wise for him to, you know, just pick out a few things that he could do. You know, you can't do everything. So that's why, on top of a manifesto that had so many promises, we are still getting promises and promises until I think somebody said on social media we should actually now have a ministry of promises within the Kenya Kwanza government that will just basically deal with the promises. So if we can narrow down or collapse most of these things into some 3 or 4
major
issues,
ones,
then we pursue those issues for the good of the country. Because, you know, the reality is, this is our president, and we are stuck with him for 5 years. And if God permits, we might have another 5 years with him. So the main thing is that Kenya must work, you know. The period of electioneering, campaigning and all that is over. We now have a president and the work must be done. So how do we do this work in the best interest of the country? You know, it's very easy for President Ruto to resort to retreat somewhere and just figure out what are the 3 or 4 or 5 main issues of Kenya. We have the issue of food security. We have the issue of education. We have the issue of employment. We have the issue of security. If you fix those 4 issues, you know, and infrastructure becoming the 5th. If you fix those issues, infrastructure, we're bringing in issues like healthcare. We still have women dying, you know, trying to give a life, to bring forth a life, you know, and it is so embarrassing. We still have a small child dying in Kenyatta Hospital with a forked djembe locked into his head, and the apex of the health structure in the country cannot fix that, you know. We still have small issues happening around our healthcare, and responsive medics, you know, hospitals without facilities. So if those are not urgent issues, and you are going a notch higher to take us to Arizona to do an online course, I mean, we will even die before we do that course. You know?
Well,
so
interesting.
Let's look at the urgent issues.
Urgent issues, and the former president did that with a big 4 agenda: affordable housing, food security, universal health care, infrastructure. Just where did we go with that?
If memory serves me right, he didn't achieve the big 4.
And so that was prioritizing technically what it is that you know, Alenga is telling us. So just
and I think,
but we must cut him some slack.
Let's cut him some slack. He tried on the big 4 infrastructure.
There's somewhere he went.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. He actually started the housing. That's why you see the president, after he took over, he moved around, and there are certain houses that obviously wasn't constructed in a month, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he wants to push, and that is more or less his I think that would be his legacy, if I'm not wrong. That's what he wants. So at the end of the day, you look at the promises being given, and you look at what he wants to do. We've talked about order of priority. During campaign season, both coalitions and the other 2 presidents, everyone was talking about economy. And we are slowly diverting from that. New things are creeping in. You know, if you sort the economy, it sorts almost everything. That is it. Right now, people don't know, but as from January, power is going up. Electricity is going up. Once it goes up, everything else follows it. Because as you see, even things are actually hard right now. So we are trying to understand the agenda, or actually the list of priority. You know, there's a joke where with human beings, when you look for someone and they're never there, it depends on the order of priority. Maybe in the priority list you are at the bottom. You know. So at the end of the day, we are trying to see how they will work towards achieving certain goals. We've talked about working in silence. You know, working in silence doesn't mean you don't work.
Okay.
A good example is Kibaki. There's this obsession where the current government wants to be on the news 24/7. Every day you switch on, they are there. And that gives me vibes of the late Daniel Moi. He was busy opening a cartel deep. He was busy opening. There are things as a president you're not even supposed to commission. There are low cadre officials who should be doing that. But you want to make yourself, when you bring yourself daily on the dailies, daily on the news, you can be working. When they took over, he just talked about the cabinet secretaries. When they took office, they were busy making reckless statements. And apparently we came to find out later that they are not even held a cabinet meeting. So you're asking yourself, if whatever you were saying during the roadside declaration, so that was a cabinet memo. So you look at how things are running and you're shocked. And that's why I believe most of these people who have gotten appointed, they need some courses or some tutelage, because some have gotten immersed with the power. And now you see some get confused. So at the end of the day, I believe they need to look at, that's why I went back to the manifesto. They go back to the manifesto because they talked about so much that if they achieve the manifesto, then they win. But if they focus on Raila, because he is playing a game with them, he'll come out and talk. But if you have to respond, you know, Kibaki never used to respond. You talk, and you know when someone keeps attacking you and you don't respond, you know they look like a fool.
Yeah.
You know, silence is the best weapon. So just ignore them and work, because he or she is diverting you from your agenda, and they'll just pick up your manifesto during an election period and work with it and say, ABCD, was it done? No. EFGH, no. So where will you put your face at the end of the day? So I believe they still have time. It's a lot of time. 5 years is a long time. So if they put their house in order and they focus on the priority, the things that they promised the Kenyans, the things that will touch the common man directly. Because you see, these promises, like things about the Nairobi and clean, and I don't understand the obsession about youth and using them for cleaning jobs. That's the best they can think about. In every government, when you see the young people, Kazi Mutani, Kazi, now this one is going to be Kazi Mstuni, apparently. So you look at the things being offered, it is ridiculous. Yesterday I heard about a football tournament called Bottom Up. You know, I laughed because I, in my capacity, I've done football tournaments. The thing is not about football tournaments. That doesn't help or build our structures. The problem is, you see, we've had Coca-Cola, Safaricom had tournaments, left side have tournaments. At the end of the day, the structures, what are the structures? The facilities. You see, and I hope they watch me, because I know they watch. You're a big time anchor by now. You know?
Oh, yes, thank you.
The good thing is, if they want to understand things like sports, and you know, it's not just football. There's also basketball that is languishing. There's also rugby now that is actually having a nosedive. If their focus is football, for example, I'll help them if they are watching that is. What you need to do is commercialize that sport. That is number one. Because during COVID period, our football players playing under the KPL, most of them turned into hawkers and boda riders. What does that tell you? The source of income is not there. They just play maybe to make a name or to feed themselves. But that sport does not bring back anything. So at the end of the day, how do you commercialize it? They're supposed to have a football tournament. Since I know they don't know this, they're supposed to have a football tournament. I hope that tournament, they intend to, because I see the president has links. I hope they intend to bring scouts to see talent and export that talent outside. That one helps you build. If you look at the Moroccan team, that talent was not built in Morocco. Most of those players play their trade in Europe. And that is why people like Messi and Ronaldo came out. Ronaldo courtesy of Sporting, Messi courtesy of La Masia. So we don't have good academies in our football setup. They need to look at that. Not just tournaments, because that tournament, people will play and go home. What about it? This month alone, you will cover football tournaments by members of parliament, by governors, by senators. You will see by the end of this December. After the tournament, they get their money, they go home, they eat for an entire year. So you're not helping them. If you want to help, commercialize the sports, and then now bring about those special stadiums you're talking about, because they're needed, because people can't play on rocks at the end of the day. So that we actually move, and then we move away from this issue of having to employ youths to do some odd jobs. Because if at all you want to help them, then you help them through their talents and skills. And I'm waiting to see what the new CS for sports is going to do. He talks a lot. I'm really hoping to see what change is going to bring into that docket, because he deals with youth.
Yeah.
He deals with arts are there. He deals also with sports. So I'm waiting to see. But if it's going to be the normal circus, then we're just going to have a job for the entire 5 years. Yeah.
All right. Well, interesting. And when the Right Honorable Raila Odinga comes out to speak, and not just the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, but let's talk about the Azimio One Kenya Alliance, then he's being castigated for coming out to criticize, even when it's not necessary, or criticize for the sake of criticizing. Just how crucial and important are these forms of criticism, for purposes of us getting accountability at the end of the day?
The whole purpose of having opposition is for checks and balances. And that's why we should encourage the Azimio Alliance to actually speak up, to actually criticize the government and raise issues whenever they find that the government of the day is not acting right. And so we should not castigate the opposition. We should not. We should actually empower them and give them a platform that allows them to be able to speak up. Give them an environment that will be able to criticize them, because out of a criticism, anyone who enjoys criticism, they are willing to grow.
Yeah.
And so if we try and shut them down, shut the opposition down, it means that we are not willing to grow. And so we need to empower, encourage, and make sure that we have this kind of engagement with the opposition to make sure that if we are not acting right, then those mistakes are being corrected. And I hope that the government is actually taking giving a keen ear to the opposition, because out of that conversation, then they'll be able to align themselves, they'll be able to correct their mistakes, they'll be able to just focus on delivery of the services that they have promised through their manifesto. And so it is very important to have the opposition. But also, at the same time, it's been only 90 days. We can count the number of times that Parliament has sat. I don't think there's any new legislation that Parliament has come up with in the last 90 days. And so maybe time is of essence to allow the legislature to come up with a new way, to come up with new bills, to come up with new laws that will be able to enforce actually the manifesto that they actually came up with. And so it's a process. The opposition is good. Let's have it there. But within these 90 days, as we are saying here, let's get into working. Kenyans are likely to be people who watch what their leaders do. And they say that we are what our leaders are.
Yeah.
And so if our leaders are actually being noisemakers and launching things and moving up and down and spending most of their time with the media giving promises, as Kenyans, we are watching. There's nothing we are willing to do. And what becomes of a nation whereby the people are not working? It will just be a very a nation that does not progress onwards. But if we're able to see from an example of our leaders, if we see our leaders in office working, actually making sure that maybe healthcare is being delivered, education is being delivered. If we see the, let's say the CS for education out there constructing those classes for the junior high, and we see that kind of progress, then as a parent at home, you'll be able to tell your child who is joining junior high to continue working hard. You'll be able to focus on that because you can already see that there's room being made for them.
Yeah.
But if all we see is that they're attending events in nice suits and launching and meeting who and not really doing anything that pertains to us as Mwananchi, and at the same time telling us, oh, we need to actually raise enough revenue to be able to pay our bills, you will not be willing to actually work hard. Why would you be accepting to be taxed and the government is not actually being accountable for the money that you're giving to it?
Yeah.
So if we can seal those holes, the government can actually seal those holes and decide to actually show us that our monies are being taken in the right places, that we are not wasting our monies in events called national events and feeding people in State House and traveling from one country to another to try and attend events out there, spending the taxpayers' money. If we are able to see them say, oh, we don't need to actually do these kind of things, the delegation, if so, the delegation will be a very small number of maybe 5 people attending such an event, and no family member attending that event, and no family appointments of the children being put in those positions, then we as Kenyans will be watching and will be able to see actually the government is willing to take care of our money, and so we are going to work. But if we continue seeing that the large delegations are being sent out of the country and they are spending and misusing our money, there's nothing as Kenyans will be willing to do to actually help our revenue and to actually move Kenya to the next level. Yes, to that Singapore country that our governor keeps quoting about.
All right, yes. And even before we come to the question of the travels and all that, and how important and instrumental they are, a very important point that Wakili brings to the fore as to making sure that then we do not show some essence of animosity towards what would be called the opposition office. And the president really is trying to speak of, first of all, tell us how you want to go about it so that we can make sure that you are guaranteed of security. The president goes ahead to say that, you know what, he speaks to his people, can we start this conversation of getting an opposition office? The Right Honorable Raila Odinga, as we all expected, would have been excited, but apparently he is not excited, and he labels this hypocritical. So in his approach to just making sure that he brings a conversation as to bringing on board an opposition office, is that a polite way of taming the Right Honorable Raila Odinga? And I know this goes beyond the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. It goes to the next individuals that are going to be there. And does this then speak of a scenario where we're going to trigger the conversation of a referendum?
I think that discussion about the office of the leader of opposition is dead on arrival, based on the procedure that is coming to the fore. We still have a very live ruling of the High Court, another ruling of the Court of Appeal, and another ruling of the Supreme Court to the effect that such a conversation cannot advance from the seat of the president. And he is the one who was actually leading that onslaught on such like discussion through the BBI, and we saw how it was defeated in the courts of law. Yeah. So it is interesting to see that he's repeating the same mistake that he saw the other regime commit. And also, I think it's a moment that nature itself is providing to us to be able to determine whether the judiciary as a third arm of government is still alive, because we have seen a lot of things that speak to the contrary. We've seen, in as much as there's supposed to be a cooperation between the judiciary and the executive and even the legislature, but we have seen a relationship that goes beyond the normal with the judiciary and the president. We've seen the president in all of the judiciary functions giving speeches. We've seen actions or requests by the president being expedited in lightning speed by the judiciary. We've seen the Chief Justice almost looking like a peer to the president, running around like a headless chicken and making things very fast so that the president is happy. You saw like the decision to have the 4 commissioners of IEBC presented before the tribunal. We had the president suspending them. Then immediately we had a gazette notice of the tribunal, and before we could even blink our eyes, there was the Chief Justice swearing them in. So when you look at all that, you start wondering, is the independence of the judiciary still live within our borders? And this opportunity And I pray that a petition, and urgently so, reaches the Supreme Court in the interest of this matter of the office of the opposition leader, and we sit back and see how will the court decide on it, based on how they decided on BBI as as a judicial precedent. Are they going to step back, or are they going to issue new orders that will contradict what they did before? So that is really something we need to examine, and perhaps it's a God-given opportunity for us to determine whether our judiciary is still alive, or it has been killed by the dalliance between the executive and them. And also just the rule of law generally. We want to say, because as you had mentioned earlier, we are coming from a regime that was known for contempt of court, brushing off court judgments and moving on in their own direction, but still fast in their heels. This regime has already walked away from the judgment by the Supreme Court against CDF. Last week we were told that the Treasury has already disbursed the CDF fund, right?
Fund, yes.
So already I think
that is in contempt of court.
The more things change, the more they remain
the same, unfortunately. And you speak of the courts, and it reminds me of the investigative agencies that we have that are also very instrumental to the course of justice. The EACC, the DCI, the DPP's office, his namesake, and the cases he's just taken an about turn on. The Tob Cohen case, the Rigathi Gachagua cases that we have on board, the Aisha Jumwa cases and all that. How about we speak of that after this short break?
That one I'm ready.
Well, do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
hiyo kitu azungumzie, aangalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions, business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates, Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, aangalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions, business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates, Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, aangalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions, business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates, Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, aangalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions, business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates, Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, aangalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions, business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates, Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, aangalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions, business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you?
And any sharp person should have bought it. You know, you don't need that office for action.
So it's to sweeten the likes of the right honorable
Yes.
so they do not.
At the end of the day, the amendments is seeking, we need a referendum. All right?
Yes.
And so, if I was former prime minister, I'd have bought that mission. There is no way your harshest competitor would want to settle you and make you feel comfortable. Why are they trying to make you comfortable? What is the agenda? This is a political game, you see. So some are, hey, you know what, he's a good guy, he's trying to, nothing like that. So at the end of the day, and then plus, I remember when he was campaigning, this was his words, I'm not misquoting him. Munataka uchumi ama tubadilishe katiba.
Okay.
It's not even 100 days. Now,
he's talking to badilishe katiba.
Uchumi, that's why I say, where's the manifesto? That's my question.
Well, good questions, really good questions. And so when we're talking about the judiciary and what happens in the space of the corridors of justice and what it is that, the two gentlemen speak to, just where are we headed in, this course of justice and this course of having independent bodies to man the aspects of us, upholding the rule of law?
There's a place for independent bodies, and these bodies are a creation of the Constitution to perform specific tasks in government. And these tasks are supposed to be very independent, that they are supposed to keep these other bodies in check. And so when we interfere with these independent bodies, when we have a change of heart from the leaders of these independent bodies, then it basically means that we do not have independent bodies anymore. And so they are subject to interference, they are subject to influence, and there will be no justice at the end of the day, or there will be no legality of any action done by these bodies. And so we need to ensure that independent bodies remain as they are. We need to ensure that the arms of government remain as independent as they were created to be, because only through that are we able to have the checks and balances. Are we able to have the delivery of the different services and duties given to these arms of government. And so it is very important. We have to keep speaking against it. We need to keep speaking against the judiciary being seen as a subordinate of the executive, the legislature being seen as also a very close friend of the executive. We all need to be independent, because only through that are we able to see that the judiciary questions some of the executive orders given by the executive. When the legislature comes up with new laws, only then are we able to see the judiciary question some of those laws in line with the Constitution. And so if we allow this friendly kind of look and relationship that we are having, we are doomed, for lack of a better word. We are doomed as a nation. And so we will need to continue having independent bodies. That's what I have to say.
Okay. Yeah. And so should we have an office of the opposition or not? Should it be established? And especially at this very point, should we have these conversations? Because you realize that much as we'd say, let's prioritize, this is government. Government affects and is part of every single thing that we do as a nation. And therefore, we could put so much priority in terms of how we fund some of this project, how we fund some of these conversations. But then again, every other thing does not grind to a halt. And so this was perhaps bound to happen. This was bound to be brought to the fore. And in their justification, the Kenya Kwanza government would say that when we speak about, change of a constitution, we might need to remind people that when the BBI conversation was there, we did not say the entire document was bad. We agreed to some certain clauses. To others, we said, let's have a conversation revolving around that. And so are they not justified to say that, can we have an office of the opposition, which is one of the things that they really supported then, to say, let us not have a scenario where the winner takes it all.
They say the devil is always in the details. I think the regime of William Ruto is aware that the conversation about creation of the office of the opposition leader will not see the light of the day, and that is actually what he wants. If you want to know that is what he wants, you look at the details of that memorandum. There's a place where they say that in the enactment of that law, then the office of the opposition leader shall be allowed or granted permission to solicit funds and get funding from outside and all other to run their programs. So therefore, that is the intention that I am asking you to work with me, we get this into office. But if you do not, this is what will happen. So it means if that law as per him does not go through, then you do not get those privileges. You get? Yeah. So that's the point. So stifle opposition in the sense that we wanted you to be able to do funding, you refused. So now you cannot get funding from outside. You know, if there's any maybe think tank that wants to work with you, it has to be through government. Government has to you know, check and see what you're doing, you know. So that is actually where we want to, because the regime of William Ruto has one big interest, and that interest is finishing the opposition, because they realize that they are a regime that does not have a plan for the government. Yeah. And therefore, the biggest enemy of this government is not even the opposition. The biggest enemy of this government is the hustler that will realize after 1 year or so that there is nothing that they were being told. So when these hustlers are mobilized by another voice, then they will be able to claim what rightfully belongs to them as per the promises.
Trigger revolution.
So kill any voice that can mobilize this. If you listen to the president yesterday, he spoke to the effect that our competitors are asking Kenyans not to pay back the hustler loans. So ideally, he's already taking cognizance that there's a voice that is trying to mobilize these hustlers to see what we told them and we are not delivering, you know. So ideally, the space is being beaten to ensure that there is no opposition to this government. And as it were, if you have, there are signs of a dictatorship coming in when you look at the office of the DPP. Yeah. You know, just waking up in the morning and they decide to seize the hearing of certain cases suo moto. And then number two, you look at the way the judiciary is working. Today we have a president who thinks he has a problem with Judge Muchelule, you know, and he puts him aside. And then immediately the new president comes in, he appoints Judge Muchelule and swears him in. And then before 100 days, Muchelule is heading a tribunal to discipline errant in the officers in the who have offended his employer, you know. So then do you expect justice for those 4 commissioners? Do you expect them to even be heard? And that is why they said, this is going to be a charade. We are not going to be part of it because the end is already predetermined. If you look at even how the JLAC performs, and JLAC is actually supposed to be there for the interest of the common man, you know, the Justice and Legal Affairs Commission. But if that JLAC is actually acting on behalf of the president, the judges are acting on behalf of the president, the Supreme Court or the apex leadership of judiciary is acting, you know, for the president. And whereas, as my friend Nurjin actually rightfully said, these 3 arms of the government are supposed to act as primus inter pares, not as a subordinate of the other. But we are already at that place where the judiciary is already running, you know, to fix things for the president. So there is a systematic fall of this society and a systematic rise of the regime of William Ruto in the sense that there shall be no opposition to this regime. If you look very clearly, the church has been put at a position where today, if the president asked all pastors to go to Nyayo Stadium, they will be there by 5 in the morning, you know? And that is a voice that you need to remain standing on its own, so that if there is something that is wrong, they can actually speak out. But today they say, this is the man that the hand of God has been put upon, you know? Number 2, you look at the civil society. I was very disappointed when William Ruto had, we had finished the election and we were preparing for the swearing in. You know, is actually, there are notable civil society persons that were actually decorating the venue at the Catholic University. They were actually there blowing the balloons. People we have seen in civil society purporting to fight for Kenyans. And then you look at the politicians. Soon after the election, there were people crossing over from their parties shamelessly saying, now we belong to this party. Today we have governors who are crossing over or suggesting so, you know? Yeah. And then we now have the judiciary. So what society do we have? It's all gone. So we must just sit back, relax, and eat the cake that we baked.
But again, we have to keep talking even as we eat the cake that we baked. And again, yesterday, the gentleman that I had on set kept reminding us that it is so hypocritical in nature for us to point a finger, yet we baked this very cake. We decided on the ingredients that are supposed to be incorporated. We decided that it's not going to be Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Instead, it will be President William Ruto. We decided that, well, this is not what we want. These are the leaders that we want. What will it take for us to enlighten and, you know, the electorate? In as much as we say that IEBC is really questionable in terms of the commissioners that we've put on board, you know, even those ones that are members of the JLAC, you know, even those ones that are members of parliament have looked at the IEBC entity and say it's not so good an entity, it's not so clean an entity. Yet they are in power, yet they are in parliament, courtesy of the very same IEBC. So what will it take for us to incur that, you know, discipline of saying that even as a leader, if I feel that, you know, this IEBC has not conducted a free and fair process, even being accorded that ticket to say, or that certificate to say that you have been elected, you can as well be noble enough to say, no, I will not take this because I have no trust on this IEBC. Zero trust on it. But they are going home because they are going home, apart from one person who's facing the tribunal. Her fate we do not know. On the basis of, well, they're not good, but still the same people that argue they're not good are sitting in office, courtesy of the same IEBC and the electorate.
Well,
the electorate.
You know, to the electorate, there's something I usually say. If you elect a clown, expect a circus. So the clowns in office, and I dare say this, we don't have a parliament. That's not a parliament.
The 13th parliament.
There is no parliament. I'll tell you for free. You see, this is the problem when you elect parties, when you elect people because of 500 shillings they give during campaigns, and you elect sycophants. And that is the problem. You see, a mind like mine, a mind like his or his in a political party is seen as a missile. Yeah. It's a problem. Because I can't be panel beaten. You see, these members of parliament are usually panel beaten to a certain formula. If you used to watch cartoon, for those who watched, there was a cartoon called Power Up of Girls. That professor mixed everything and came up with the three girls. So these party leaders, they mix all the clowns, all the sycophants they want to get into parliament, so that they always give directions that they want. So at the end of the day, they cannot think beyond the party leader, because the tagline is respect the party leader, party positions. People usually sleep there and wake up and ask, I vote I vote yes. They don't even know what they are voting for. That is a sad reality. And that is what we put in office. So the voter needs to understand, when you vote for a political party, and you know they make sure their people get those nomination certificates. If this region, let's say UDA is popular, I'll make sure my clowns get those tickets. Because when you wake up in the morning and you're not enlightened as a voter, you're just voting 6-piece. As you move, you're sending clowns to office who don't even understand their role. That is why we have a jail like the one that we have, which sits down. It is called Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. That is a very strong committee. But you look from the chairperson, they already have a predetermined motion. They are only there as a formality. You ask yourself, when will this parliament ever question the government? When you listen to members of parliament who are in Kenya Kwanza, and you're saddened because they believe they are in government, forgetting that members of parliament, that is also another house of another arm of the government. They in government, they look at Azimio of oversight is on you. My friend, legislation, oversight, representation is also on you. But sadly, when you hear the president say, na msipige serikali sana, not criticize the government, the same thing you used to do. So you ask yourself, do we have a house there? We don't, because we have gone back to the issue of tyranny of numbers, where bills were passed which the Constitutional Court said were unconstitutional, 21 of them. So you ask yourself, are we still doing the same thing, expect different results? We are just stuck in a place where we change governments. You know that saying about the monkeys being the same? Yes. It's the same. The trees are... so the forest, they just skip from this tree to that one. And that is why he said there are governors who are crossing over, members of parliament who are crossing over. And they're not shameless, because for them, we win an election to plan another one. And that is why these IBC commissioners are being sent home.
Yeah.
Because there is a notion that someone wants to plan the 2027 elections today, so that in the next 5 years, they already know everything is set on motion. That is very sad, because that tells you that whatever an MCA, an MP, a senator, governor, all those at the presidency level promised, they won't achieve, because they are sorting their election right now.
Yeah.
And which is a travesty, if you ask me. So to the electorate, if you keep voting for your kinsman, oh, he's my person, we come from the same tribe. If you keep voting for a political party, enjoy the suckers that you're seeing right now.
Well,
and 5 years is a long time enjoying a suckers that will pain you. So at the end of the day, if they're not enlightened, you need to get to a place and say, enough is enough. Because you always have different candidates. There are those who, when they come to seek your votes, actually have your goodwill at heart. But because they don't have money, they never get to office.
Yes.
Then there's that one who will spend 500 on all of you, and when they get to office, you never see them because they believe they bought your vote. So they owe you nothing. And once they get into office, the first thing is to recover that money they spent times 10. That is why they are crying for CDF, to squander your CDF.
Well, CDF and even the national or the county assembly is also there calling upon government to consider, you know, the funds down there, and it cuts across. Even the women representatives are saying that, you know what, you're giving us money same as that or equivalent as to that you'd give to a member of parliament, and you expect for us to serve a whole county. It's interesting to watch. And the president travels to Washington for U.S. African Leaders Summit. President William Ruto, of course, that was yesterday evening, proceeded to Washington to attend this three-day U.S. African Leaders Summit that begins today and goes all the way to Thursday and Friday. And you brought to the fore this. While it could not be a bad thing for the president to travel around the global fraternity, because, well, we do not stay in isolation, we do not live in isolation, we also need to be keen, or, you know, to understand what goodies does he bring home. And this is on an African perspective. As we speak to the African leaders, just what can they negotiate for the people in these spaces where they speak of, you know, the United States, they speak of the bigger brothers, and in terms of us getting at least a 50-50, if not 70-30.
The one thing that the African leaders should actually get from our big brothers is to basically the partnerships and maybe the forfeiture of the loans that we owe the big brothers. And so from that, it will liberate the country, it will liberate Africa as a continent, whereby we don't have to focus now on paying the debts that we owe the big brothers, but we'll be able to now get them on board to partner with us on some of the projects. Actually, consider that, for example, the expressway project, where they came and invested and actually constructed for us to repay them later as a proper kind of a partnership than whereby we go and take the monies and we do it ourselves. But then the question is, are we able to account for this kind of relationships that we also engage ourselves in? But are we at that place also that we need to continue getting help from our big brothers? That's the other question I would like to ask, because we are 59 years of age as a nation, 58 years of age since independence. We are independent as a country. We are already grown up. We are a country that can do and establish and discover things for ourselves. We no longer need any help from any of those big brothers for us to keep going back to them. We discovered oil a few years ago in this country. We have our manpower and the talents that we have actually sent out there in the world, in other countries, to actually go and empower and help those countries. Are we really at that place whereby we need them to also come back and help us? I don't think so. We can be independent. We don't need any more help from them. But if they feel that they need the help, they should be the ones coming into this country. We should not be incurring these expensive per diems that we pay our leaders to attend these conferences in those countries.
Okay.
The Americans should be the ones coming to this country. And
to Africa, they
Africa,
find a common space in Africa.
To find that common space. And the reason is one, probably we are not showing value for for this kind of relationships. We need to show value, that we can add value to these American countries and the Eastern countries, that these leaders will be able to come and implement and maybe request, plead with us to work together with us. Not the other way around, where we're going to plead with them to maybe come and set up the internet and fiber and all these kind of goodies that we are promising the people. So it's sad and unfair to the common mwananchi to be out here financing and working towards borrowing and more pleading with other countries.
And when Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana had the confidence to tell Macron of France that, you know what, enough is enough of this, I almost thought that that was the beginning of change. But almost close to like 2-3 years later, nothing much from the African president. So is there any reason for us to smile when we see our presidents dress up and, you know, with delegation and proceeding to the United States, proceeding to Britain for Commonwealth sessions, you know, to just negotiate on these bilateral talks and this, you know, talks of making Africa better?
I think first and foremost, there's an issue we were talking about the presidential trips.
Yes.
It's very disappointing that at a time when we are struggling as an economy, we are still managing to send very huge delegations to outside countries almost all the time. The President Ruto has been in office in under 100 days, but this one to the US marks his 10th international trip just in under 100 days. You know, President Kibaki in a whole 10 years had 33 international trips in 10 years.
Yes.
And President Uhuru, by 2019, his trip to Barbados was making their 100th trip. So you can imagine now this one of President Ruto, if he goes maybe up to 10 years, if under 100 days he already has 10. So if we can do like 10 for every 100 days,
okay.
It's crazy, and how much money we'll have lost through those trips. And also when you look at the contingencies he carries to those trips, is also interesting. It's financial immorality, because you look at, sometimes he carries some people that you ask yourself, what have they gone to learn? You know, you look at them and you're like, so this one, what has he gone to learn that he will bring back home? And then sometimes you see them even in their own world, while the president is discussing serious stuff, they're in their own world, you know. They're just observing, you know, admiring the big cities. So that's a question we need to really ask ourselves. What is our priority in terms of our public expenditure? While that is happening, till now, many counties have not gotten their allocation, you know. So what are we prioritizing? You know? But then, so if you look at that and the most immediate issues that we have as a country, it's a deep indictment to the regime. But if you have talked about the issue of African leaders and what is the future for all this, I think we need a multilateralism that works for Africa. We need to discuss our issues about trade and what is it that we're getting out of that trade and who is benefiting from that trade. But before we can discuss that, we need to put our house in order, you know. We need to have a conversation, first of all, as Africa, and then now engage with the European world, the Far East and the Middle East and all that, and all those, the Oceania and all those other segments of the continent. But before we have a united conversation that we are taking to the international table, then it still impedes our competitive advantage as a continent before the entire world. Today, when these leaders are going to the US, I'm very sure Uganda is pushing their own conversation. Tanzania is pushing their own conversation. Ghana, South Africa, Kenya, you know. But can we have a common dialogue, you know? Let's even just, before we can go to the far lands and plead for certain things, what are we doing about our own trade areas, you know? think about it, how difficult it is to trade even between East African
within
countries.
ourselves,
You know,
yeah.
if just East Africa, it's difficult to cross over to Uganda, to Tanzania, to Sudan without running into a lot of problems and a lot of demands here and there. I don't remember a time when I heard of any outbreak of yellow fever, but we have to have immunizations, vaccinations of yellow fever before you can go to the other side.
Yeah.
You know, can we knock off this border, red tapes so that we can actually freely trade with ourselves? It should be very easy for somebody to fly to Abuja and do trade and come back, and somebody from Abuja does the same to Kenya. And then now when we spread our trade beyond our boundaries in Africa, then we have a common market for ourselves first of all. And this common market then plugs into the world market. And then even as we are having, I think the AGOA agreement is coming to an end in 2025. What is our preparation towards that? When Kenya is negotiating on the US-Kenya Free Trade Agreement and the US-UK-Kenya Free Trade Agreements, what are the imperatives for the whole continent within that framework? And what are the issues that pain Kenya that we need to put on the table, instead of just buying what the big brother says? But like I said earlier on, for us to arrive at a place where we can command this discourse, or we can come to the table of negotiations from a point of strength and not a point of weakness all the time, is first of all dealing with our domestic issues, dealing with our neighbors, and consolidating the Africa trade. Once we have that as a block, then Africa plugs into the world trade as a dignified partner, not as just a subsidiary or a complementary of the trade pattern.
Okay.
Let me just add something. You see, the funny thing that most people wouldn't want to discuss is that African leaders are puppets. I'll tell you.
Unfortunately,
they are puppets. I just call most of those who are elected here clowns. I'll call them puppets, because I'll give you an example. Our two front runners during the election period had to leave this country. We went and discuss our issues in the US and at Chatham House. You understand? And it's very sad. It is very sad.
Yes.
You're trying to seek acceptance. For what? That tells you we just celebrated the holiday yesterday for nothing. As you say, that money would have been done, would have better use. Because you're celebrating something that is not there. There's this talk of it's not yet Uhuru. It's not yet, because they control our economy, our land. Yesterday was a day to ask ourselves, our forefathers fought for independence. What have we achieved? Whatever they wanted, do we have the land? Answer is no. So what are you celebrating? You should be asking yourselves, how do we make whatever they achieved a reality? And now that we have those who claim to be sons of Mau in government, they should be helping us achieve these things. And none of them is finding the body, because at the end of the day. So you ask yourselves, African leaders, this is Malema says that AU is a house for the old guys. It is true, because issues facing Africa are solved in Africa, can't be solved out there. Right now, the president has made the trip. The CS for Trade went before him. You see, the agreements we're going to get into with the US, the funny thing is that last month, the USA was doing public participation with their citizens, asking them, what would you want in this agreement to benefit you? Our government has left here without even asking us anything. So they'll get there and figure out and ask, where do we sign?
They will figure
without even going through the document.
Come back and say, oh, the big brother is unfair. You act like a clown, so what do you expect? They prepare, they plan. African leaders, as he said, they live here with different opinions, with different views. Tanzania wants different things from Kenya and etc. Why can't they sit down and discuss what benefits Africa? But no, they want a photo with the president of the USA. Some even, they cut their wife, but it's okay. But they take a photo with the president. And for them, that is...
Don't you want a photo with the president? And I know
it doesn't help
you have worked with him.
And you see, a photo with Joe Biden doesn't help me with anything. It doesn't add anything. You see, it's just a photo. That's what these leaders have to understand. It's just like in our country. when you rush and take a photo with the president and you leave, he doesn't know you. That photo is simply with nothing. But if your issues are sorted, then that's, I don't even need a photo. You know, that's the funny thing. So African leaders want to show, oh, by the way, Biden and I are boys. I can call him, he can pick. That doesn't help the citizens of your country. Because if they are still being exploited, if the same country controls your economy, your land, you know, they even control our movement.
They do.
So how are we even celebrating? And we are meant to celebrate Mashujaa next year. So you ask yourself, what are we celebrating? So at the end of the day, African leaders need to realize that they are the cause of most of the problems in this continent. And the day they realize that their people should come first, then most of them who are actually lifetime presidents will actually go home. That's a sad reality. But you know, most of them are closer to where they are going. So, and they help them achieve certain goals and needs. So they have to be there.
Well, gentlemen, allow us to close at this very point. Do we even need to have parting shots? Maybe 30 seconds. Wakili.
From our conversation this morning, I urge us as Kenyans to really reconsider our choices before. And the only way to reconsider this is if you're able to access your MCA down there on your grassroots level. Access them, tell them to serve the people. Tell them to come up with laws that take care of that particular area.
They will tell you they don't have the funds.
Yes, that's the only way we can actually save ourselves, because at the top, our leaders seem to be very disorganized. They seem not to be focused on our needs as Kenyans. They seem to want to travel more and to take more photos rather than serving the nation. And that is the one task that we gave to these leaders. And so if we can access our MCA, maybe these are our saving grace.
Devolution.
Yeah, down there at the devolution level.
Gentlemen, allow us to close it at that because of the aspect of time. Malenga Torostad, Torostad. Yeah. Oh my goodness, political analyst, not the last speaker. The last speaker was Eliud Ngugi, who's Wakili, and as well Wakili Nordin Kagai. Thank you so much for speaking to us, gentlemen. We shift gears to a different conversation on matters Christmas, and not just Christmas, but just how best you can, plan yourself or plan your finances on this time of the festivities. After this.
You dream of working in Germany as a health practitioner? Mount Kenya University, through its affiliate, Equip Africa Institute, has partnered with Hochschule Koblenz University of Applied Sciences, Germany, to train you in healthcare assistant for German hospitals. The training, which targets those who have cleared KCSE and have proficiency in German, will be conducted in 2 semesters, with successful candidates being guaranteed apprenticeship and job opportunities in partner German hospitals. January intake is in progress.
Well, the Christmas atmosphere is here, and shopping is all what completes the whole vibe. And so this is the Morning Cafe's shopping spree. Yes, Christmas shopping spree. I said shopping spree because imagine we've been saving the whole year for this one moment, and you have to get it right. And so we'll be doing our shopping at the Sangyug, enterprise that is seated right inside the Big Bang building, somewhere around Ngara, those sides of the other side of Ngara, as they would rightfully put it, the museum side of Ngara, which is very, very important. And the person who will be taking us through this moment of shopping is none other than Manish. Manish will be introducing himself as the director of Sangyug, and of course tell us what it is that they have in store for Christmas.
Yeah. Hi everybody. Yeah, my name is Manish Shah. I am the one of the directors of our company, Sangyug Enterprises, and we have unleashed a lot of products for Christmas.
Yes.
You name it, we have it. So apart from Christmas, of course, we have a lot of other things, but this right now we are focusing on Christmas, and that is a lot of things we have here. As you look around, you will see more and more things.
And I'm looking forward to that. You see, when you are going out for shopping, you really want to go to that space where, it's a one-stop shop and you get everything and anything. And like Shah says, you name it and they have got it. I have already started my shopping, and so I'll be walking you through. And, we also get tips on how important it is to shop and shop wise during the Christmas season. So we are delighted to perhaps walk around you as I pick 2-3 things for the show, and we get to know. So generally, just how important is it for one to shop wise for that matter, and how different is it when it comes to the festivities?
Yeah, so shopping, everyone loves to shop,
but
you have to do it within budget. Like you can't just overspend at Christmas and then you are like in January you're like having problems. So plan your budget, what you want to put for festivities, for traveling, for food, for decoration, and then budget accordingly.
Budget is the problem. You would want to come. Every time I hit this place, I want to buy everything and anything. Everything that you touch is beautiful, and even more during this time of Christmas, it's important that you work within your very own budget. So how different is it, shopping during the festivities, and especially for you, that is in terms of business?
The shopping period from let's say from 1st of December up to just before Christmas, that is the best time of the year for us.
Okay.
Our sales are normally 20-30% more
than any other time of the year, even during other seasons, holiday seasons, because we have Valentine's, we have Diwali, we have all these other ones.
Christmas is the best season. It's the best season. We also cater for all the other festivities, as you say, Valentine's, Diwali and all that, but nothing beats Christmas. Because I think that is the time of the year when all the children are free, all the adults have sort of done away with most of the expenses. It's time to relax. Maybe they will be getting break from work, so they can focus on doing all the things they need for Christmas: eating, drinking, being merry, decorating, traveling.
And you find every sort of gift here and decoration. I mean, I've been moving around. We have the gift bags. We have really nice things that you can actually bring for your family, or you can buy for your friends and all that. So perhaps it's time that you come and check them out. But even important is that shopping can really be had. And even aside from the aspect of Christmas, I am sure you deal with very many clients. Sometimes someone wants something, maybe they're not able to come here. Just how do you work with your clients so that shopping becomes easy for them?
So we are on all social media platforms. We have an e-commerce website. It's www.sangyug.com, and that showcases over more than 15,000-20,000 products which we have. So apart from the festive season, we have something for everything, for each and every occasion, each and every use you need for school, for sports, for power backups and everything.
And people will be looking forward to deals, offers, especially at this very moment. We're just from Black